Live from London, it's car-boyz! Hello one, hello all.
Hello.
Please join the congregation for another instalment of the car show that is on your radio. Well, really on the internet, but you get the general idea. We may have no pictures, but we've got the inside track on all that's good and holy and sometimes downright evil in the wild world of motoring. Whether you need advice on your old banger, the car, not the wife, or you've got a budget to buy a Tesla, that joke's straight out of 90. Actually, I don't know about 1978, but 1938. If you've got a budget to buy a Tesla, we're the trusted brand that's been around since the year 2019. Now, this week, we take a trip to Finland and New Hampshire to look at some of the world's best driving roads in lost highways. We have a comedy car quiz where you have to work out the car brand from the name of the car. And also, I'll be asking you the big question of the week. Who has stolen all the handbrakes?
Oh, Rich, I think it might be the Tooth Fairy, either that or the the EU bureaucrats. Oh, no, we're not allowed to talk about Brexit, are we?
No,
Brexit. Have to do that. Anyway, yes, this is the show that returns with all your usual favourites, like a Cadbury's Christmas selection box, you know, the one from the 1980s where before the family dog had chewed it all the way through the Christmas tree. Yes, we've got all the usual correspondence in the bold and probably informative mailbag. We've got a finger on the current affairs button, and yes, we promise, as we said, not to do any Brexit talk at all in the news. And we'll be looking at a classic car this week. Almost like a shooting break. It's the Reliant Scimitar.
It definitely was a shooting break.
Yes.
I think it was. Now, sorry to butt in, but they were the same price as a brand new Aston Martin in the day.
I know, we're going to be talking about that.
Oh, and Princess Anne had one. And the last time I saw one, I was on the A30 at Gillette Corner. Or is that the A4? Yes. No, it's the A4 at Gillette Corner.
Yeah.
And it was brown, and it had sort of those furry covers that you put on car seats. I was looking at this thing going, what? My God, it's a scimitar. And it also looked like an Allegro estate. Just a little bit.
If you look at it at a slight angle, yes. I'm Simon Sudran, and I'm the only person that went to the frozen Arctic for the summer. But da-da-da-da is all I want to say to you. Da-da-da-da-da, the meaningless and all that's true.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. Love your work with the Brazilian rainforest. Bit hot there at the moment, I gather. And I'm Richard Green, and Thundercats are on the move. Thundercats are loose. Feel the magic, hear the roar. Thundercats are loose. Meow. See, I'm trying to get into that millennium demographic that might get the Thundercats reference. And this is car-boyz.
Car-boyz.
Now, you heard me mention earlier on, we were talking about missing handbrakes. And back in 1997, American singer Paula Cole had a hit with the song Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? It was a question that, unfortunately for Paula, was never answered. I imagine the Cowboys were replaced by a slightly more effective system of farming beef cattle. Maybe using mixed farming and balancing meat production with cereal crop rotation was the answer. We just don't know. Anyway, the question I have this week, and I've been asking it all week, is where have all the handbrakes gone? Now, for the past 100 years, the handbrake has been the way in which you stop a car from rolling down a hill, park the car, stop the car in an emergency when the main brakes fail, or do an amazing comedy donut in your mum's Nissan Micra in a B&Q car park on a Wednesday evening in the rain. Come on, we've all been there. We've all done it. Well, it's come to my attention that many of these trusty, or I should say rusty in the case of the Nissan Micra, brake levers or handbrakes are being replaced by many modern manufacturers. If you're listening in America and you're owner of an American car, now you'll understand that the handbrake is more of a foot brake to the left of the driving seat on the floor. There's a small pedal that states push to release. And this, in effect, is your parking brake, which takes the same role as the handbrake. This is all well and good, but the role of the handbrake has been one of them, a mechanical tool that stops the car from moving. So it's a physical, mechanical tool, not an electronic one. Now, manufacturers seem to be hell-bent on replacing these completely with a small button in the center console of your car next to the dial, which is apparently your semi or automatic gear shift, the dial thing. I haven't driven one of those yet. Very strange. Now, this may sound like a reactionary old man. Don't say yes. But
Yes.
complaining about things changing and using phrases such as, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, and this is a big but, like J-Lo, if you have one of these new electronic handbrakes, you can't stop the car whilst the car is moving. And I didn't realise this because I've driven a couple of cars with these on, and I was scared to death that I'd actually knock it on while doing 70, and no more than 70 on the M25. Now I hear you cry, Richard, why would you want to apply the handbrake when the car is moving? Well, I'll tell you. If your main brakes fail, if the brake servo fails, if your brake line gets cut, your hydraulic brakes won't work. A manual traditional handbrake could literally be a lifesaver in these sorts of situations, whilst an electronic one is not. It's sort of the case of electric windows versus wind down windows if you dive headfirst into the canal in your car. You know when you pulled the lever, you obviously depress the little button first at the top of the handle. You release the same button when the angle of the lever was at its zenith. You know there's a physical action that will have the result of not letting your car roll. And you know there's a cable attached to a lever that manually engages a parking brake to the wheels of your car. Looks like those days are coming to an end. Only 30% of new cars produced now have a handbrake, a traditional one. Now, for me, that's a worry. It takes another mechanical aspect of the car away from the driver. It removes the element of the true nature of the car, that of a moving mechanical box. More and more electronics, more and more power steering, more creature comforts, more head-up displays, more sat-navs, more warning, more lights, more massaging seats. And it takes away from the true nature and the true power and possibly the terrifying nature of the vehicle itself and what it's capable of. Also, the electronic handbrake isn't without its faults. Volkswagen issued a recall for over 134,000 UK cars due to an issue with the parking brake. And it's not the only brand to experience this. 2017, Tesla issued a total recall of 53,000 cars due to a parking brake problem. Audi, Renault, Toyota, all been forced to recall models for electronic parking brake problems in the past. Now, I like to drive in a 1983 Fiat Panda. No stereo, no power steering, no leather seats, no alloy wheels, not a sat nav near a cigarette lighter in sight. This was motoring at its most basics. It had an engine, manual gearbox, four wheels, a roof, and most importantly of all, a way in which to stop the vehicle, a set of terrible drum brakes, and a manual lever handbrake, which did on occasion have a cable that snapped. But despite this, you understood what a car was about. Now, I may have left this bit out, but also a car without a manual handbrake is useless to those who spend their lives guarding the lives of others. Where would the bodyguard, the CIA operative, security detail, or 007 himself be without the ability to execute a J-turn, slide the car sideways, or do a complete donut to get away from those evil entities threatening their clients, their boss, or in 007's case, the world as we know it, Mr. Bond. Now, I don't think we've got a complete end to the traditional handbrakes. And if we do, I'm slightly worried what teenagers are going to do in B&Q car parks on a wet Wednesday night, because it's all about the donuts. The reason it got me thinking this is because I take my daughter to school and she sits in the car seat in the front. And when we get there, she applies the handbrake. And she does it really well. She puts the little button in and she pulls the handbrake.
Yeah.
And occasionally, when I'm definitely not driving on the road, I let her change gear with the automatic.
Yeah.
I'm not on the road, obviously. Yeah, I know it is. It's hilarious. Not on the road. I'd never do it on the road. But I let her change the gear, and she knows how to do that as well. And she
There are two questions though. One, my car has an e-brake, but it's got a handbrake, the actual physical lever thing. And it's called an e-brake. I'm not quite sure why, but it's got this sort of like hill start thing, which holds the brakes as if you're going up a hill or down a hill. So I don't know if you could do hill starts using an electronic brake or not. I don't know. I've never driven one. And two, in the driving test, you have to do an emergency stop. So how does that work?
You do the driving instructor would slap on the dashboard in the UK. I don't know how it's in America, and you would execute the emergency stop. And when so why would the handbrake need to come into application here?
Because in case sometimes occasionally they say if in an emergency you would then pull up the handbrake as well.
Yes, of course. If you're doing an emergency stop, say on a hill, then you
Yes.
need a handbrake because otherwise you depress the clutch, you put your foot on the brake simultaneously to stop, and then I imagine from my memory, it has been quite a few years since I did a test.
Yeah.
You apply the handbrake or
So
use
how
the
does that
handbrake.
work?
Yeah, well, it doesn't. The first time I had a car with one, I was looking at this thing going because it was also near the boot. I think it was on a VW Passat. It was also near the boot release.
Did the boot open when you?
Well, yeah. Well,
So
my
the
fear
handbrake.
was that I'd be fannying around for something. It's not so much bad if the boot opens on the motorway. I'm fannying around for something in, like, a sweet or something, and I'm going to hit the damn the parking, and I'm doing 80, and I'll suddenly be doing a J turn down the M40. I don't like them. I think it's like it's more and more cotton wool to wrap ourselves around. The nature of the car, it takes you from point A to point B, and as we
Mm.
found out last October when we drove around Berlin, um, in the Trabant, that's the true nature of it. And you really realise you're in a car. And what I would like my kids to do is drive something crap as their first car. We all did.
Mm.
Mike, it's a Fiat Panda. So it's something rubbish, something that doesn't go very fast, something that really explains to you how much, because it's lovely. I love getting in my big, fat executive car. Yeah, but I deserve that now. I'm not 17 anymore. I like the leather seats and the automatic. When you start off, you should have all the rubbish. You should
Mm.
have, should no air. You shouldn't have aircon, and you should have, a 4-speed that only can do about 75. You should have a 1 litre engine. You should have rust around the wheel arches. It was just a
True
thought. I
proper
just thought it.
motoring.
Yes, I just thought it removed the. And I mean, taking down. I think what they're finding from my little bit of research is that cheaper cars are still going to have the handbrake. So obviously, yeah, 007 in the next Bond you see will be turning up in a 106. But apparently, it's going to be a black woman anyway, so that's all good according to the latest research.
Mm.
Should we do some news?
Let's do some news.
Hang on, here we go. Oh, it doesn't want to play now.
Oh.
Hang on. Here we go.
Car news. So car news this week. First off, hot hatch news.
Ooh.
Ooh. The next generation Volkswagen Golf GTE, which stands for Grand Tourer Electric, will offer 2 power outputs when it arrives on the roads next year, intended to cater to those wanting a standard plug-in hybrid and those in the market for a performance-focused petrol hybrid electric vehicle, or PHEV, which is what it says.
Everybody wants a furf.
Volkswagen board member for research and development Frank Welch told Autocar that the GT will be sold with either a 201 bhp or 241 bhp. He said,
Wow.
today, I'm not going to put an accent on, today's GTI is 241 bhp, so the GTE should also have 241 bhp. So the GTE is really a GTE. But there are some people who just want to stay with the similar plug-in hybrid to today, so that's why we're offering 201 bhp too. I know I'm following this too.
Yeah.
It comes without the GTE trim and just appears as a normal Golf. There will be no electric e-Golf because Volkswagen will focus on its standalone ID3 model instead. Volkswagen previously released a design sketch of the Mark 8 model that showed a distinctive evolution of its interior look and technology. It revealed that the Golf will adopt a large dual-screen instrument and infotainment display panel stretched across the driver's eye line. The rest of the interior has a more minimalist look as a result. The car also expected to have an interior that's almost completely devoid of conventional switches, so touchscreen everywhere, at least on the higher end models. Touchscreens will replace the traditional instrument vehicle and the climate controls. Even the headlights switch could be replaced by a touchpad. So let's have a look at this Golf EGT.
Now, I'm thinking this picture that we've got here isn't the one we're talking about. I think that's the current model. Because look, I can't see a screen.
It's got well, it's not across the whole screen. It's got a digital dashboard, hasn't it? But not the whole.
I drove a very new Honda Jazz as a courtesy car, and it's a pain in the arse, the touchscreen, because the Honda have this thing where once you've learnt one Honda, everything's in the same place on every car. So you can very much get in an Accord, you can get in but this is like an iPad thing stuck in the middle, and I'm like, usually I could just reach for heating, I could reach for climate control, I could reach for lights. There's a lot of stuff now stuffed onto the iPad in the center, and it takes your eye off the road a little bit.
We'll post the pictures up, but you look at this. It's got two like big red emergency buttons. You know, the ones when you've got like machinery, you need to put emergency.
I thought there was 2 bottles of Diet Coke sitting in the. So what do they do?
Do you know what it is? It's when you go to Chinese restaurants, they have like soy sauce.
Oh, it's that.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I like the tartan. I think the interior looks cool because it's got the traditional Golf tartan. My brother had a hot hat, one of the 30th anniversary Golfs a few years ago. Yeah, I guess that would have been 2009. He had a 30th anniversary with the checkered seats, and it was a manual gear shift with the golf ball on.
But this one's got some kind of stubby gear thing. I don't know if this is like a pre-production model or something like that, but
the car
doesn't look very good.
It looks like the outside looks like a Golf.
And the pedal. Do you remember Knight Rider when he used to accelerate and
Michael Nates? Yeah.
Yes. And it used to have lights. That's what the pedal looks like. I think that's the pedal.
Maybe kit. Maybe it comes with kit. And now, this isn't the first example we've been talking about of the show the last few weeks, is it? We've had car manufacturers making less and less models. So what he's saying here is you're just going to get less and less models. So Honda or BMW will eventually just make 1 or 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
It'll be like Land Rover in 1956, where they just make a Land Rover, and it'll be a Series 2, and that's all they make in green or green. But I did notice that only 201 bhp. The Escort RS2000 in the 80s only made 148 bhp, and that was a monster. That was a scary car. So 201 bhp, unless the Golf's a lot heavier than a 1980s Escort.
More bulkier, yeah.
Still,
I'm not sure. That's not enough. I don't think that's enough.
You're thinking it's going to need a bit more?
I definitely think it needs at least.
Well,
I mean, cars like that weight, you're looking 250, 275, something like that.
Well, talking of speed, and I mean the action, not the drug, moving to stupidly affordable hypercar news, and little-known Italian car maker ATS or Automobile. No,
is that the plastic toys?
Yeah, ATS.
No.
The air training service, ATS. Automobili has unveiled a new model called the RR Turbo, or the RR Turbo, developed in-house specifically for racing. ATS stood out as one of the first companies to release a street-legal mid-engine car, the Scaglione, designed at 2500 GT of 1963, but it looked elsewhere for inspiration when it started designing the RR Turbo. The coupe has the typical proportions of a modern lightweight supercar, but ATS went to great lengths to make the RR Turbo as light as possible. Lightweight materials such as aluminium, carbon fiber keep the weight down to 780 kilograms.
That's nearly as light as me.
It is. Wow, it's amazing. It makes even the Alpina A110, which comes in at over 1,000 kilograms, look big bone. The number is even more impressive when you consider that the list of standard features includes a built-in roll cage, an integrated fire extinguisher, suspension that's fully adjustable via a touchscreen mounted on the dashboard. I think this looks really pretty. I think it's the prettiest looking thing I have seen in a long time. Also, what would appeal to me and made it really practical is the turbocharged engine is a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol unit from Honda.
Nice.
Modified to deliver 592 bhp. Do you think that's going to be enough? It spins
for something that weighs 780 kilos,
which is about the weight of the original Mini, isn't it? It spins the rear wheels through a 6-speed paddle-shifted sequential gearbox, limited slip differential, full performance specifications remain in the wraps, but the power-to-weight ratio hints at jaw-dropping acceleration times. Carbon ceramic brakes are available, and it was ATS was founded by Ferrari defectors back in 1961. I'd never heard of the brand, to compete directly against the Maranello marque, but lasted only till the end of '64, having built just 12 cars. The brand was revived in 2014. A new company revealed its limited edition McLaren-based GT supercar in 2017. Now, this thing is only going to cost £110,000.
Oh, bargain.
That's it. Well, I know that sounds a lot, but
not in supercar terms.
No. Well, if you think the cost of a top-range BMW, Porsche, Aston Martin is around that, and I think you got something that has the looks of, the Königsberg, that sort of thing. For 100k seems a cheap price to drop on it. I first saw it and I thought this really reminds me of the Lancia Stratos of the 1970s.
Oh yes, I think you posted a picture of it on our Facebook group, which will give all the details later on.
I think that's a very sexy looking car.
It is. That's a right answer. Did you say Königsberg? Isn't she the woman from the BBC News?
Yes, her family own the Königsberg. They own the rights to that. Oh, stupid supercars for the Spiker. There we go.
Okay. Yes, it is a beautiful car. We'll post pictures. We'll put some more pictures up on our Facebook group, which will give our details later on. Should we do some electric car news?
Oh, yes, I haven't heard that for a while. Go on.
Yes, we like doing our electric cars. Nissan and energy giant EDF have reached a deal to work together and develop smart charging technology for electric vehicles, including systems that could allow the Leaf and the ENV200 owners to earn discounts on electricity bills. The two firms agreed to cooperate on a number of EV systems, but have expanded their collaboration with focus on smart charging systems in the UK, France, Belgium, and Italy. So all the main places. In particular, the agreement will focus on vehicle-to-grid systems, which will allow the energy stored in the car battery that is plugged into a home charger to be sold back to the supplier when needed. Not quite sure how that's going to work. Nissan will focus on developing technology that will work with the electric Leaf and the ENV200 van, if not mistaken, with EDF leading the development of the V2G charging systems and services. The technology is likely to be particularly relevant to businesses which could have large fleets of electric vehicles plugged outside work hours being used. So all of this is good, with EDF doing all the electricity bits, but how would we be paying out for taking electricity back from you? How does that work?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to pay at the same rate, are they? So they'll sell your electricity at 2p or whatever a unit, and we'll buy it back from you at 1p a unit.
Not sure that's really how it's going to work out. That's if you work for EDF, let us know.
I had a conversation with somebody this week about electric vehicles and, in particular, the petrol-electric hybrids, and he told me a story of a company that shall remain nameless that gave all its staff hybrid vehicles with the proviso that the company would pay for the petrol, and that they would be able to plug their electric hybrid in at night to charge it up. And when they took the vehicles back, they found all the electric cables were still in the plastic packaging and never been plugged in, because the employees, quite sensibly, were buggered if they were going to put their electric cars and charge it on their own. I don't think it's only £6 a time to charge up an electric car. But yeah, they were buggered if they were going to pay for that. I think that's a fantastic story of, yes, it's a good intention, but at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I'm not. It may be a free car, you may be giving me free petrol, but I still work for you, and I'm buggered if I'm charging up my electric vehicle at home.
My electricity.
Yes, and finally, in the news, in Dieselgate news, German Transport Ministry has threatened to issue Audi with further fines if it does not meet the upcoming deadlines for retrofitting of manipulated diesel models with new software, according to German media reports. Bild am Sonntag, which is a newspaper, claimed that it cited documents revealing German Transport Ministry had issued Audi with the ultimatum in relation to a demand originally made in 2017 to rid diesels of so-called cheat software. Now, if you remember, VW Audi claimed much lower emissions than were actually recorded by manipulating the computer software inside the cars. It is said to lay out conditions that could see the German car maker slapped with fines should it not meet a September the 26th deadline for the retrofitting the V6, V8 and diesel models. The retrofit measures are aimed at bringing various Audi models up to a legal state by adding software code that does not include manipulation measures that could lead to significantly higher emissions on the road than in test conditions. Now, 12,400 cars were involved in this. I've got a number of friends who were affected by the VW Audi recall. Right. They've not been offered new cars. They've not been offered anything to change in the UK. They've had a letter and they've been offered money off a new one.
So what they're basically saying is we're going to ignore everything that's happened, but just spend more money and buy a new car.
Yeah, basically. Let's forget all that. And I said, well, how does that affect all the old one? And a couple of friends of mine, a friend of mine has an the Golf E Electric Blue, I think it's the E Blue or something. Yeah, and he said he's not been offered anything, and it is banging the thing of the wrong emissions. Now, to counter this, talking to a mechanic about this a couple of years ago when this story broke, is the fact that they always say that VWs and Audis don't really produce that many bad emissions, and far worse are French cars, Citroens, Peugeots and Renaults. And to get them past their first MOT, they have to rag the nuts off them to get the engine hot enough so that emission levels are correct. Wow. So that if you have, and many of these French cars, not mentioning any individual brands for libel, but if they're doing city runs, they're constantly giving out wrong emission levels that would not pass the MOT. He said the only way we can get them past the MOT is really, really get them hot. Well, you're only going to do that if you're bombing down the motorway or the bypass or the highway.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a little bit smoke and mirrors, but Audi VW, very silly boys by fitting that software. Somebody high up knew about that. I'm not sure anybody lost their job, but very, very silly.
We shall keep eyes on what's going on with that.
Indeed, we will.
So that was the news for this week. Should we move on to some classic cars?
I can't wait for this. You texted me telling me it was going to be. I texted you jokingly, why don't you do a Reliant? You text me back, said, what, the kitten? and I told you a story about, I lived in a flat in Nottingham and my neighbour had a kitten. And if listeners, if you don't know what a kitten is, it's a Reliant Robin, but with 4 wheels.
4 wheels.
So it's it's a fiberglass car with 4 wheels, very, very small. It didn't have a boot. It only had a window that opened. This guy had put an Audi engine in that stuck out of the bonnet like a hot rod, and he had the 4 chrome Audi rings on the front and the back. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. But you're not going to do something as naff as that. You're taking us back to a time when Reliant was top of the tree.
Yes, we will be. Yes, don't forget later on we'll do the post bag and the quiz and the lost highways. But yes, Scimitar first of all. It was of course produced by the British car manufacturer Reliant, famous for the Robin, famous for the kitten, and it was between 1964 and 1986. During its 22-year production run, it developed a range of versions, including a convertible, which was in the 1980s. They all have a fiberglass body mounted on a steel box section chassis, as we said last week on last
chassis.
The model we're going to be concentrating on is the SE5 and SE5A version between 68 and 75, arguably the better looking of the range, therefore the most desirable. The SE5 took a year to conceive, which was in 1968 for the Motor Show, and it was designed by a guy called John Crossthwaite, and they designed it to be slightly longer than the previous model, relocating the fuel tank with a rollover bar, new cooling system, a spare wheel which was mounted in the nose, so it gave more space in the rear for a 78-litre fuel tank. So bit ahead of its time. The chassis was designed by Crossweight, and a guy called Peter Bailey modified the prototype to give it the look that we all know and love. The main change of the SE5 was the Sports Estate hatchback, which I think is a lovely car. The body shape was at a time when most manufacturers were producing hatchback models, and they gave it the name GTE, which I think stood for the Grand Tourer Estate version. That's what GTE stood for.
Yeah.
The SE5 came with a 3-litre Ford Essex engine, which, if you didn't know, came from the Zephyr and the Zodiac.
Right.
And later models, they had the 2.8-litre V6 Cologne engine, which was using the Granada. It gave the SE5 version a proven top speed of 120 miles an hour, and was capable of 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds, which is pretty rapid in those days. It could be recognised because it's got reversing lamps at the bottom compared to the previous one, and you could probably get about 18.5 mpg from it, which wasn't too bad considering the age of the car. The manufacturer's UK market recommended the retail price, and we were talking about this earlier on, including sales and taxes, of £1,759. And in those days, the 3-litre MG CGT was retailing for about 1,300, with the Rover 3.5-litre for £1,700. So it was pretty expensive. Yeah. And the Volvo, the 1800 ES, which was probably its biggest rival, was still 4 years away from that. In total, 4,311 SE5s were produced, and the GTEs, the estate versions, outnumbered the standard coupe versions by a ratio of 1 to 4. So quite a lot. As we said at the start of the show, Princess Anne, she had a manual overdrive SE5, which was given as a joint 20th birthday present and Christmas present by the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh, which was in. Do you know what colour it was in?
Oh, I'm going to say British Racing Green. It won't be though, will it?
No, it was Air Force Blue and had the number plate 1420H, which was apparently in recognition of the role that she had and the rank that she had in the forces, which was Colonel-in-Chief, 14th, 20th of the Hussars.
Nice.
So that's why I did it. What do you look for on a classic car like this? Well, it's not easier to live with than the later models, which were galvanised. Therefore, some of them would need some welding along the chassis behind the seals. The body was made out of glass fibre, so maybe cracked in places with micro blisters, but it shouldn't be too complicated to sort out. Electrics seem to be the main Achilles heel, but again, that's pretty easy to sort out. So I was looking this morning. The average prices are from the unloved version, about £3,000 to the top being about £10,000. So I'd say an average price, you're looking to probably spend about £6,000 on a decent model. I looked on the internet this morning, and an average one was going for £8,000. But I did see, and you were talking about the Kitten with the Audi engine, I did see one that was modified with a Ford Scorpio 2.9 24-valve V6 Cosworth engine for £13,000. So that's this week's classic, the Reliant Scimitar, which I think is a beautiful looking car.
Try and buy it. Was priced at the same price as Aston Martin. Try and buy an Aston Martin for that price now, second hand. I've just been reading about it. I didn't realise that Reliant were based where I lived in Nottingham in Beeston.
Really?
That was where the company was. I think they must have. This was the mid-90s, so I think they probably weren't making the Scimitar then. I think they were still going as a brand. That's probably why I saw the Kitten modified. He probably worked at Reliant. What a strange company to make very expensive cars at one end, like the Scimitar, and go, yeah, but we're also going to make the cheapest car you could buy.
Three-wheeler
Reliant Robins, as favoured by coal miners.
And you're not quite sure why they could ask so much for it, especially when it's made out of glass fibre.
I don't know.
Not metal.
I don't know. I mean, it's a good-looking car. I think the shooting brake is a good-looking car.
Yes.
And BMW did a version of one of the Zs with
Z4, Z3.
Yeah, with a shooting brake version, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was I tell you what, it was an M car, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I think there's something to be said about a shooting brake. So yes, I shan't be rushing out to buy one.
Why?
I don't want. I don't. It's far too much things that can go wrong with that car. It's not on my watch list, but I can understand why you'd want to go out and get one. Right. Let's do our Lost Highways feature. This is a feature where listeners email in and give us their favourite roads, the reason they love them. I will give you our email address if you want to get in touch. Email the car-boys at car-boys@outlook.com, car-boys@outlook.com. We're also on Facebook, car-boys, boys with a Z, at car4zs, boys. Twitter, car-boys, at car_boys, and email us as again, I'll repeat that, car-boys@outlook.com. Let's have a look at some of these emails. Yes, Ethan emails the show from New Jersey, USA.
Hello, Ethan.
If you're in doubt, like the movies always say, London, England, as opposed to London, Ontario. I think in London, they have no London there. He says his favourite road is the Kancamagus Scenic Highway in New Hampshire. Ooh. 27 miles long from Conway to North Woodstock. The hang on, I'm saying this wrong. Kancamagus is short but sweet and kind of greatest hits of northeastern driving. Route 112 traverses through the White Mountains, twisting and turning to an elevation of 3,000 feet. The crowds get crazy during the summer and the autumn months when you get the leafers, the people going up there to see the leaves changing colour. So avoid these areas. They can get so avoid it totally because it can get traffic choked. If you're motoring through the hills. Whenever you go, you'll know that you'll be sharing the tarmac, though, with the moose, who always claim the right of way because they're big bastards.
Yes, I don't. I think the moose will always win.
It's not like running over a rabbit in the UK. Although, my sister did run into a deer with a car, and it completely roped her Ford People Carrier off. That was it. Gone.
Really?
Yeah, going down to Bristol through the Cotswolds. Deer ran out. Bang. Goodbye, car. Now, the first thing I was obviously concerned about my sister and her family, but I also wanted to know, had they kept the head of the deer? Because I thought
it's a trophy.
She's a vegan as well, so I thought it would have been great. You could have kept the head, had it mounted, and what a great story you've got to tell.
Yeah.
You say, look, see that? Yes. Wow.
I
let me tell you a story. I ran into that in my Ford Explorer or whatever it was, people carrying.
Yes, and obviously the car came worse off.
Yeah.
Good story, I think so. So I didn't know last week. Not last week, the week before that. We were off on a break. The car-boys went on a tour to Finland, and I had some time alone in the woods. It was literally miles from anywhere. However, I did go into downtown Helsinki, by the coast, by where all the actual ships come in. But there was a car cruise of American car classics that was driving through there. And what do we say? We've got an email from I'm assuming that's Helle in Turkey, which originally I thought when I was there was Turkey, but it's not. She says one of the most scenic road trips in Finland is the Puumala Ridge. I'm guessing that's right. My Finnish isn't that great. Also known as the Letvesi Scenic Road. You can drive from Puumala either via Porvoo and through eastern Finland, or head to Mikkeli and then Puumala. Both drives, it's like my pickled porn, both drives take more than 3 hours, but the scenery makes up for the time, especially when you get to Puumala, where the road winds through in between the little islands covered with forest. Have a camera ready, she says. So I do like those roads. They were twisty, and you had gradients, you had cambers. It was absolutely brilliant.
Well, of course, and as we all know, Finland is the home of every rallying Formula One sensation, and especially out of country. Has they got like 3 million people there or something? It's not a great.
It's not very many.
Not a great population. I know if you do get caught speeding, the fines in Finland are astronomical, and they are in
Really?
relation to your earnings. So if you are a Formula One driver, or if you're
Yes.
a rally driver, a Petter Solberg,
Mm.
you could be fined £28,000 for going too fast. That's what I've heard.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really hardcore on it, but I imagine people do go faster out in the middle of nowhere. Put your
What
foot
if you
down.
freelance?
I don't know. You just have to submit a number of invoices and be selective. I think that would be the answer. It sounds. I love driving places like that. There's a place I've holidayed before in Malaysia called Langkawi, and it has super duper roads. They rent they've tried to make the island into sort of a nature reserve, and much of it you can't build on. You can't build anything above 3 or 4 stories. So they've not ruined, and it's a real desert island beach destination. But they put in these new roads as part of that process, and it's so much fun to drive around there. The roads are really wide, really nice, and the scenery is gorgeous, and it's just like you actually find yourself driving quite slowly because it's just so nice. Such a nice experience, as opposed to every single driving experience I have in London, which is just hell, absolute hell. Whatever time of day or night, it's always a joy. Okay, we're going to take a look at the correspondence in this week's car-boyz post sack, bulging with mail as usual. Okay, first off, Amy, 2710 in Carlisle, says she wants a 4x4 to cope with the roads in winter up near the Scottish borders. It needs to be reliable, sturdy, but quite small, as she has a narrow lane to negotiate to get to her house. Most importantly, it's got to be 4x4, as her company offices are always getting ice on the front driveway. Her budget is around 5k.
Is this 5k? I think would be out of the price range for the Defender, because that would be much.
Oh yes, that's apparently £47,000. Yes, we'll have 2 of those. Yes, with all the kit. Basically, says coming in at 40. So they've written off the Defender as a farmer's car for let me think, ever. I mean, that is not a farmer's car. Nobody's ever going to buy the Defender. I'm sorry, I'm getting on my high horse about Defenders and the fact it doesn't have Solly Hull on the back. It says bloody Slovakia. But it was a traditional back to the bones car, and farmers are not going to buy something that's covered in plastic on the inside and effectively is. It just looks like. I think I actually misspoke last week, because I think they're still making the Freelander. They make a new version of it, because the old Freelander was crap. So they make the Freelander, the Disco, the Sport, the Vogue, and the Defender, the Evoque, not the Vogue, sorry, the Evoque. Land Rover brands it's all the same bloody car. That's the same bloody car with different levels of tarted up on it. It's to me, it's not a Land Rover. Anyway, we're getting distracted. We won't have one of those. She can have an old Mercedes G-Wagon, but it'll be an old one, won't it?
Yeah, new ones are quite expensive.
Yeah. Smaller, I thought Fiat 4x4. That's quite small. The new one.
Well, the Sizzly. Oh no.
No, they do a new. It's quite. I've got a little. My friend used to work for a Fiat dealer, and he used to bomb round in a 4x4 for a while, and I quite liked it. It's quite cute. It looks like somebody bought Playmobil, the military version, because they all seem to be in this green. But it looks like a special needs car. But he said it's so much fun. It's got like a 1.4 little engine. It's a 4x4. So I was thinking that. What did we mention the other day? The Volvo. I can't remember what it's called. It's the Cross.
It's the estate thing, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was called the Cross Country. It was.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The old one, which my cousin's husband had, and he loved it. So Jap, you could go Subaru Forester, Subaru Impreza. If you need more
are usually quite good. They've got a lot of space, haven't they?
Yeah, but she says she needs it small. But I don't know. It depends how small she needs it, because it's a width issue rather than a height issue. The Hyundai Sportage, that's a quite nice little car. You can get we had a look online, and you get a 2-litre 4x4 diesel, 70 grand on the clock. It's 10 years old for about 4k. Or my choice would be a Honda CRV 2010 model, 60,000 on the clock, 2 owners, 4,500.
I'm just trying to think if there's any Ford offerings or Vauxhall offerings.
4x4 the
not for
Cougar.
that price.
I mean, I know you're quite partial to a Cougar.
Oh, just a bit. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think they'll be out of the price range.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit more expensive than that. So
they don't really make. I mean, if you're going small, I'm thinking Fiat Panda and the Subaru Justy, which I don't even think they make anymore. That's probably a last one they made early 2000s. That was a 4x4.
Or composing a Suzuki Vitara.
But they're obviously going to fall over every time it goes around the corner. Was it the Samurai? What was the Samurai a Suzuki?
Yes, it was. Yes.
My wife used to work in France, and the guy at her office used to he would give her a lift to work in a Suzuki Samurai. And she said every time it went round the corner, she thought the damn thing was going to fall over. And it was in hairdresser colours as well. So it had the plastic roof. It was white with a pink flash down the side. And I think this was a guy in his 40s that drove this. I don't think he cared. They're French. They're just it's a different breed of people.
They just don't care.
So, Amy 2710. If you want a small one, Fiat 4x4. If you want a big one, something Japanese,
absolutely,
or something Korean.
We have an email from Sam, who's in Newcastle. Hello, Sam.
How are you?
Talking of our handbrake feature earlier on in the show, he writes, "How do you stop a car with a manual handbrake lever if your main brakes fail?"
Well, firstly, you fill your underwear with the contents of your bowels. The way I was taught was because it should go to the rear brakes, was not to put it on fully and execute a J-turn, was just to knock it. So pull it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it down, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up.
Aren't they? No, they are. They are on the rear wheels. Apart from I think it was the Citroen Xantia, which had the handbrake on the front wheels for some reason.
I thought you were going to say the Citroen Xantia that had an anchor that you threw out the window when you went to car stop. Hey, years ago, the Fiat Panda I was talking about, my brother learnt to drive in the same Fiat Panda.
Yeah.
And he got caught, right? He would have lost his license now with the handbrake wasn't working.
Right.
3 of the tyres were bald. And it was like £180 fine, but the handbrake wasn't working. And it was like, oh yeah, that tyre's bald, that tyre's bald, that tyre's bald, and the handbrake hasn't worked for how long? My brother said, oh, I've just been parking it in flat places.
I think they call them slicks, don't they? Slick
yeah, they do. It was. I did warn him that having large dreadlocks and driving around the country lanes in the Cotswolds was going to highlight him to the local police force. Okay, so yes, that's what we think you do with that. Donald, where's your trousers? 1, 2, 3. Emailed in.
Yes. Okay, Donald.
He says, "Love the show, boys, but you're missing one thing. You need to review more older classic cars. How about a feature
That's
on
very
Scotland?
Sean Connery.
How about a feature on Scotland's finest, the Hillman Imp? Manufactured in Linwood for about 15 years, the Imp was a great little car. Come on, boys, more classics."
I do like the Imp.
Do you know what Sean Connery has for? No, it's a terrible old joke for lunch. It's not sandwiches. He always likes a pastiche. It's the Hillman Imp was a terrible car. It overheated. They're all badly made. Here's our review of the Hillman Imp. They're all badly made. He did have a Lotus for a while, and it did feature in the 1960s TV series Man in Suitcase. But
yes,
they're all overheated. They were all badly made, and far be it from me to say it, but the quality of manufacturing at the Linwood plant it was part of the Roots Group, supposed to be the best in the world. And suffice it to say, people disappeared on a Friday afternoon early and came in on a Monday morning with a hangover. So you've lost at least a day every single week on production. It was a good-looking car, but it wasn't very well made.
Yeah, I do like the look of them. They are kind of cute. They are cute. I do like the Imp. So there you go, Donald. Where's your trousers? Should we do another mail? We'll do one from Carl 57 and his varieties of sauces from South. Yes, from South Dakota. He contacted the show last week to ask about which car to pick to use as a daily driver. He's been in contact again. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for listening. And he says he's got around 10,000 US dollars. Yes. And wants a modern classic because he needs to use it daily. Suggestions, please. So budget 10,000. Where was he? South Dakota. He wanted. I can't remember what he said last week.
He wanted
Carl?
something big and Italian. So we
Yes,
didn't know
that's
what his
right.
budget. We didn't know whether he wanted like an older classic. So we were saying original Fiat Spider, Fiat 130, and I told the
Like
story.
the Graduate.
Yeah. No, the Graduate was an Alfa Romeo.
Oh, it
It
was.
was.
Yes, you're
It
right.
was an Alfa Romeo.
Alpha
Fiat,
Spider.
Alpha Spider. It was, yes. Fiat Spider or the Fiat 130, which was a large saloon, which my dad had in the 70s, and he hated. And he had it from brand new, and it just rusted. And quickly, he sold that, paying for the past. Now, I had a quick look online. Maserati have got a good presence in America. So you've got the Quadriporte, which I've heard comes with lots of problems, but I would go for the Maserati Coupe. Or you could go back to the 80s with a Biturbo and a V6, all of which about 10,000 US dollars. But look carefully because we are talking about Italian cars. I think the prettiest is the first generation coupes.
Yeah,
And that's the
They
car
are
I
pretty.
would go for. The Quadriporte apparently is a very old car on the inside. I mean, it's held at like 80 grand brand new, but apparently all the kit on it is really old. Buttons are in weird places. Maserati Coupe, not the one with the fat hamburger headlights on the rear lights. It had little thin LEDs that were like they looked like R's on the back. They went around the edge of the bodywork. Does this ring a bell?
Yeah, I remember the ones.
You can buy those in the States. SoCal 57 varieties. I think that's what we'd suggest. I think. As we mentioned before, if you want to email us, get in touch with the car-boyz. Remember, the boys is always with us there. Email the show, car-boyz email the boys at car-boys, boys with a Z, at outlook.com. Email us car-boys at outlook.com. We're on Facebook, car-boys, boys with a Z, at car-boys, 4 Zs at the end. Twitter, car-boys, at car_boys, boys with a Z. I think it is about that time of day that we delve into the quiz, and
I love
need
the quiz.
to get my quiz music up and running. Thank you, folks, for joining us in the most exciting car-related quiz show broadcast globally through YouTube. I am your host, Richard Forsyth Green, and unlike other TV quiz shows, I am neither a paedophile or a raging alcoholic. But I digress. In tonight's show, we make sure that all previous prizes are safe. The bendy bullies, the blankety-blank checkbook and pen, and of course the speed boot. They're all safe. All our contestant has to lose tonight is his honour of not knowing the names that car manufacturers gave to their vehicles over the years. And like the 1980s TV show Play Your Cards Right, I will be wearing a wig and dating women younger than my daughter. Since my daughter's 6, that's quite frightening. Maybe the paedophile thing was an actual reference. No. I mean, like, play your cards right. I will be offering you the chance to play the Joker, by which I mean we'll give you a clue, and I don't mean to bring out Lionel Blair, who apparently now lives in sheltered accommodation. Our contestant this week is from glamorous North London. Please say a lovely welcome to our contestant Simon. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much, Simon.
Hello.
Now, Simon, if I was to say the name Victor as the name of a car, you would of course know that as a Vauxhall. Or if I was to say Escort, and the answer would of course be Ford. Or in my case, the lady who I meet at a motel on Friday nights. Now, Simon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. And remember, anytime you want to play that Joker, you can, to give you a clue.
Okay.
So here we go.
Yes.
Firebird.
Ooh, Firebird. It would be American. I think Pontiac.
Oh, yes. Ding. Okay, it's going a bit harder now. We're going back to early British motoring in the 1940s. Javelin. The Javelin.
Oh, Javelin was I think it was an obscure company. Like, is it AMX?
No, it was Jowett, which was a company
Oh,
out of Bradford from 1947 to 1953.
from
Beautiful.
Bradford.
From Bradford, the home of car manufacturing we never knew, and Beeston, as we found out with Reliant today. Jowett Javelins were really, really good cars, but they were too expensive and overly, really over the top
Ah.
manufacturing.
Oh,
Anglia,
Anglia was the Ford Anglia.
Bing, Panda,
Oh, Panda.
yeah,
That would be Fiat Panda.
well done, ding, Cobra,
Oh, Cobra was
don't say still
another
no,
American
yes,
AC.
AC
Yes.
or Ford. We would have accepted AC Ford or Sylvester Stallone. Have you ever seen that film?
No,
Cobra.
I've heard
It's
it's not great.
awful. It's awful. It was my favourite film when I was 13. Uh, Mustang.
Mustang it's the Ford Mustang.
Okay. The age range of your favourite ladies. Cougar or Cougar.
This could be a tricky one because although we had a Ford Cougar here, we had the Mercury Cougar in America.
Ah, yes. Bing! In fact, I'm going to give you a bonus point for that. Bing, because
Thank
I
you.
found that down. You had the Ford Cougar, which is originally a front-wheel drive sports car,
Yes.
and the Ford Cougar, which is currently a sports utility vehicle by Ford.
Yes.
Getting slightly harder now. Barracuda.
Barracuda, which was a great song by Heart, but that's not the answer. Oh, Barracuda, Cuda. It's got the big rear wing, but who made it? I'm not gonna play my Joker. Not gonna play my Joker. I'm gonna go for Dodge.
Close, but and it was a
Oh,
non-existent brand. It was that's gone now. It's Plymouth. It was
yeah.
Fox.
Huh. Fox. Which was also the name of a radio station.
Yes,
It was
a terrible DJ.
Fox. Fox was. Oh, isn't there one now called a Fox?
Yes.
Is it VW?
Yes, Bing, you got it correct. Okay, we're staying with the animal theme. Gazelle.
Gazelle. Only gazelle I know, I think, is a helicopter. So I'm going to play my Joker on this one.
Okay, the company also made sewing machines.
Singer.
Hey, Bing! The Singer Gazelle, which my friend father had one of those. Yes,
Oh, okay.
Singer made cars. I think
Did
they may
it
have made motorbikes for a while.
did it sound like a sewing
It
machine?
went like a sewing machine. Right, moving over to the other side of the pond. Bearcat. Bearcat.
Bearcat. Who would it be? Bearcat. I'm going to take a. Can I use a Joker again, or?
Oh, go on. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
This car was produced round about the beginning of World War One. The brand was defunct by the 1940s. Featured in the Lou Reed song.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of the Velvet Underground song now. I'm singing it in my head. Sweet Jane. It features in the song Sweet Jane. It's mentioned in the song Sweet Jane by Velvet Underground and lastly Lou Reed.
Defunct. It's not someone like Studebaker or someone like that, is
it? You're in the sort of right area. It begins with the same letter.
No.
I don't think you're going to
I'm going
get
to
it.
pass. No.
No, Stutz. Stutz Bearcat. I think they had
Ooh.
a revival in the late 1960s, and they produced a series of cars that looked very
Interesting.
well. They the Pimpmobiles, but
Okay.
originally it was early manufacturer pre-war. I think up to the 1920s. The Stutzer Bearcat, GTO.
GT, which was a song by Sunita, wasn't it, in the
Ah,
80s? GT. That'd be Ferrari, surely.
You have two choices here: Ferrari and Pontiac.
Yeah.
Bing. Cherry.
Oh, awful car. Awful,
Yes.
awful. But do I go with Datsun or Nissan? So I'm going to go with Datsun.
Yes.
Datsun Cherry.
Bing. Correct. Bluebird.
Datsun.
No, Nissan. You're a
Oh, no.
fool. It was the Nissan Bluebird.
Oh, no.
Come on, how many Nissan Bluebirds have you caught at 3 o'clock? And they're always taxis. I don't think there's many left now.
Will we still see one when we go out drinking?
I hope so. We're going out tomorrow night. There's always one plying its trade around the sordid streets of Covent Garden. The Wraith.
The Wraith is... Oh, that's Rolls Royce.
Bing, El Dorado. And it's a car manufactured by a car company, not the awful 1990s TV show set in Spain.
Yes, one of Alan Yentop's finest moments. It was the Eldorado. Who did the Eldorado? It was...
Big American brand. Big, posh,
yes,
top end.
I'm going to guess at Buick?
No. Close, but no cigar. Cadillac. The Cadillac Eldorado. New Yorker, Fifth Avenue.
New Yorker, Fifth Avenue. No, pass.
Chrysler. That was one of the big, huge whale tails of the 70s. Okay, so we're now moving over to this. I don't think you're going to get this. Metropolitan.
Metropolitan was... Why do I know Metropolitan? The Metropolitan was... Did we not talk about Metropolitan recently?
We may have done. It's not the line in North London. It's not a tube line.
The Metropolitan
begins with N, the company, and it was I think it was a British American hybrid company for a while.
Metropolitan. No, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm thinking of a plane called the Metropolitan. No, I don't know.
No, this was the Nash, and I think Fraser Nash originally. Fraser being the British brand, and I think Nash and the Metropolitan had wheels on the inside of the car. Very, very 50s looking car. It's a weird looking thing.
Mini Cooper.
Well done. Yes, and finally the Herald.
Would be Herald was Triumph.
Bing! Well done, young man. You got 15 out of 20.
Ooh,
well done.
Yay.
And commissions, my friend. All you've won is an all expenses paid visit to a high security prison in the London area, and of course, free access to all the car-boyz Past and Future podcasts. That's yours, and I hope you take that home to your lovely house in Bradford, and you enjoy those. You can't get cheaper than this program. Right, we have done 1 hour 2 minutes. We've gone over time. Thank you very much for all your emails. Thank you for tuning in. That's about it from car-boyz this week. As I mentioned, you can email the show car-boyz at outlook.com. We will endeavour to get in touch with you. Anything else you need to say today?
No, it was. I thought I played a good game in the quiz. Yes,
it did play a good game. You can do the quiz next week.
Okay, I shall do the quiz next week.
Good man. That's about it from us. Get lost. Get alive. Goodbye.
Bye.